This video shows how to quickly get started with Ethereum programming. The purpose of the tutorial will be to create an Ethereum smart contract and to interact with it from a website. So we'll follow all the instructions which are available on the GitHub at this address. And what we will do is a simple storage application which will basically allow to get the content of a string from the blockchain and to modify its value. And so we'll do that from a website. And in parallel, we'll explore the content of the blockchain using Ganache tool. So we'll use mainly two tools for Ethereum development. Truffle is for compiling and migrating contracts to the blockchain, and Ganache for exploring the content of the blockchain. Then HTTP request will be used for the web server. All the tools are based on Node.js, and we provide all the instructions to install all these tools in the environment setup. So basically there are four main steps. Set up the environment, so for this we assume that you are comfortable using the Linux command line. Then we'll start a local Ethereum client, so this is Ganache. We'll compile and migrate the contract to the blockchain, so this is using Truffle. And then we'll start the local HTTP server and interact with the blockchain and the contracts from the browser. For the setup, you'll have to install npm, Truffle, Ganache, and HTTP server. So this is quite straightforward, just follow the instructions. And finally, you have to git clone this repository, which is the application, the main application. So let's start with that. You can choose to install it anywhere. I suggest to install it in home. And basically just clone this repository. So I'm already in my home here. Takes a couple of seconds to download and then cd into it. Then you'll have to run npm install. So before doing that, let's have a look at what's in this folder. So this is a Node application. We have this package.json, where here that's the Node dependencies that we will need, in particular Truffle contract and Web3. That's for interacting with the Ethereum blockchain and the Ethereum contracts. And here Truffle, where we will specify where the blockchain can be accessed. So this will be on port 8545. So let's run npm install. So this download the packages that we need, and if we look back into the application folder, we see that this node module folder has been created, and that's where all these dependencies are stored. So in particular, we have Truffle contract, Web3, and a couple of other ones that were also required. If we go back to the instructions, now we can start the local Ethereum client. So cd where you installed Ganache. So I installed it on my home. I open a new tab, go to Ganache, and then run npm start. Takes some seconds. And here is the user interface. So what Ganache has done is start a local Ethereum client, which is listing here locally on port 8545. So that's where we can interact with the blockchain. It created a set of 10 fake addresses, all credited with 100 ethers. And then we can explore the blocks and transactions, and for the moment there isn't anything. So let's move to the compilation and migration of the contracts. Going back to the application folder, we see that so there are two main folders for the defining the contracts and the migration. So for the contracts, it's in the contracts folder, and here is our contract code, which basically has one string status constructor where we can initialize this status, and then an accessor get status and modifier set status to get the content or modify the content of the status. And we have this migration folder where Here in the second step, deploy contracts, we can here initialize our contract with a string, and here we chose hello. So to compile and to migrate, it's as easy as running truffle compile. So let's compile the contracts. Going back to the application folder, we see that here a new folder has been created, build, and so that's where the compiled code will be stored. It's stored in the JSON files along with other metadata. And so you can have a look at what's in there. That will be used by the Web3 JavaScript to know how to call the contracts, and by the truffle migration command. So now that we have compiled the contract, we can migrate. So let's run truffle migrate. Okay, and so it's creating the contracts and migrating them. So here simple storage is now at this contract address, and we can look at Ganache now to see what happened. If we look at the transactions, we see that we have 4. So this is for the initialization of the blockchain with a truffle, and this is where our contract was created. So here is the address of the contract, and then here this contract call was for the call to the constructor, where we set the initial value of the status to hello. Now, if we go back, we can go to the next step, which is the interaction from the website. So for this, we'll have to start the HTTP server. Right, so now it's listening at this address locally. We can go in the browser and go there. So we have all the files in our directory, and we open this interact with blockchain file. So which basically, if we look into this file, so we have some JavaScript here. So we import Web3 and truffle contract. That's to interact with the blockchain. We'll have to read our JSON file for the simple storage contract. So this is done here. We read this file, and then we use truffle contract to create a contract object from the contract specification, which are in the JSON. And then we can interact with it. So we'll have our contract object, and whenever we want to, for example, get the status, we would run this series of commands called the getStatus function from the contract, retrieve it, and then it's just basically modifying the content of the web page according to the values which are retrieved. So here we see that we display the main address, the first one, and its credit. So going back to Ganache, that's information which is available from account. So this is the first address. 627 with this balance, and so that's what we retrieve here. The current status is hello, so that was set by the constructor, and if we change with another string, right, tells us that the old status was hello, and now the current status has changed to here we go. And if we look into Ganache in the transactions, we see that there is a new one here. So we call the contract to modify the value. We can have a look in more details, and here is the binary content of it. Basically, our new string is here. And what we could look at also is that if I remove one character, I change the status, I go back to Ganache. So now I have 6 transactions. Here, I see that there is 1 character less than this one. Here, there is this 21, which was the exclamation mark which was removed compared to this other one. So here we can have some ideas also about how things are stored. And what's useful to look at also is that here the gas used is less than here because there is one character less. And with Ethereum programming, everything is going to cost you money, even a single character. And here you can look at exactly what you're doing, how much it costs. That's about it. And here are some further documentations which might be useful.